every chain will break as broken hearts declare his praise. For who can stop the Lord Almighty? Our God is a lion, the Lion of Judah. He's roaring with power and fighting our battles, and every knee will bow before him. Our God is the Lamb that was slain for the sins of the world. His blood breaks the chains, and every knee will bow before the Lion and the Lamb. Every knee will bow before him. So open up the gates, make a way before the King of Kings. The God who comes to save is here to set the captives free. For who can stop the Lord Almighty? Our God is alive, the Lion of Judah. He's roaring with power and fighting our battles, and every knee will bow before him. Our God is the Lamb that was slain for the sins of the world. His blood breaks the chains, and every knee will bow before the Lion and the Lamb. Every knee will bow before him. Oh, we bow our hearts before you, God. Yes, we do. For who can stop the Lord Almighty? 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 Oh, who can stop the Lord Almighty? No one. Who can stop the Lord Almighty? Oh, who can stop the Lord Almighty? Oh, who can stop the Lord? Our God is alive, the Lion of Judah. He's roaring with power and fighting our battles, and every knee will bow before him. Oh, our God is the Lamb that was slain for the sins of the world. His blood breaks the chains, every knee will bow before the Lion and the Lamb. Every knee will bow before him. Every knee will bow.
Hey, welcome to Prairie Lakes Church. I'm Cody, the digital pastor here, and right off the bat, whether you're hearing this for the first time or the 100th time, we need you to hear we are a no-matter church. What that means is no matter who you are, where you've been, what you've done, or even what's been done to you, we believe God loves you. He does, and you can look for him here with us. If you are new or newer, I'd love to connect with you, get to know you, and send you a gift because we believe you matter to God and you matter to us. So if you let us know who you are by filling out our welcome card, I'll send you an Amazon gift card here today, because we know that connected people are growing people. So if you want to take that step in becoming known, all you have to do is go to prairielakes.org/welcome and fill out our short form there. And the next step that we take here is serving purposefully. And we know this time of the year, many of us are having the New Year's resolution of wanting to be more connected at church, or maybe serving more intentionally. And we would love to help you take that step. So whether you have questions about what it looks like to serve, or you're ready to sign up, we'd love to help you take that, because we know a couple of things. First, When you serve here at Prairie Lakes Church, you make our ministry possible. All of our ministries here online, at our physical campuses, are possible because of people who faithfully serve each and every week. The other thing we know is that when people serve, Prairie Lakes just feels a little different. One of the things that we regularly hear is that when people start to serve purposefully, Prairie Lakes starts to feel like home, starts to feel like family, and we want that for you. So if you want to learn more about serving, about the opportunities, or you're just ready to sign up, you can do that at prairielakes.org/serve. And another next step that we take is giving generously. When you give to Prairie Lakes Church, practically, you partner with us in changing lives here in the state and beyond. But also, we just know that when you give generously, God does something in our hearts. Because money is one of the biggest competitors for our heart. So when you give generously, you release that from the throne of your heart and you put God back there where He belongs. So if you want to give generously, maybe even for the very first time, you can do so at prairielakes.org/give. And hey, we're going to kick to the next part of our service here today. So let's kick to today's message.
Hey, Happy New Year, Prairie Lakes Church. Happy 2022, okay? Yesterday was New Year's Day. Tomorrow, none of us want to think about it, but tomorrow's back to school and back to work for most of us. So the question is, what does that make today? Well, I think maybe it's a day of mourning for you. I kind of feel that a little bit. Cleaning and laundry, maybe. Prying your kid away from a screen, maybe. Looking at your calendar or checking your email to see what kind of pain awaits you tomorrow. I don't know, okay, but here's what I do know. It's good to be here together. It is. No matter if you're kind of mourning vacation being over or bracing for another Monday, you're in the right spot, okay? And I'm glad that you're here. Hey, this weekend isn't just sandwiched between a holiday and normal life. It's also sandwiched between 2 years, right? The end of 2021 and now just the start of 2022. And it's kind of a natural time in the calendar year for us to do two things. To look back and then to look ahead. Reflecting on the year that was and then anticipating the year that's to come. So, in light of that, and kind of light of where we're at, let me just ask you a quick question, okay? Think about this. Which of these two things come more naturally to you? Okay, which of these two? Which comes more naturally? Number one, reflecting on the past so that you learn kind of from it. Or number two, anticipating the future so that you can influence it. I'm sure all of us do both, right? But which of those comes more naturally to you? Which of those do you naturally gravitate toward? Do me a favor and either write it down, capture it on your phone or somewhere, just take a mental note, capture it in some way if you would. And I wanted to start there because it's going to be helpful for you to know where you lean as we launch into what we're going to be talking about this weekend. But we're going to come back to it later, so I don't want you to forget. In fact, our conversation this morning is going to be really split up and built around those two parts, and we're going to spend the first part of our time together just reflecting back on the year that was and what we can kind of learn from it. And then I think we're going to spend the other part, the part two, anticipating ahead to the year that will be, okay? So let's jump in. Part one, reflecting back. So, way back on December 20th, which seems at this point in the year like it was forever ago, and it wasn't. It was just 2 weeks ago. December 20th was a Monday, okay? And every Monday morning, myself, Pastor John, Pastor Chris Rigg, and Zach Elster, every Monday morning we meet for 2.5 hours. And I facilitate that meeting. I build the agenda for that meeting. For the other three guys, it's the highlight of their week. I'm, I'm sure of it. Don't ask them. They told me personally, so just believe me when I say that. But December 20th was the very last one of those meetings for us in 2021. It was the last one of the year. And so as a part of that meeting, what I usually do is I like to go all the way back to January of that year. And I just like to help us reflect on a lot of the big stuff that we talked about and what we saw God do and kind of where we're at, how it developed. So we reset to January and then we just kind of fly forward. And what I want to do is I want to share with you some of the highlights from that reflection. This is from our seat as kind of the highest staff table at Prairie Lakes. Okay, so here's what it looked like. January, some campuses has just reopened for Christmas Eve in 2020 Christmas Eve. Going into January 2021, they had just reopened. Because remember, COVID flared up again, big time, in the fall of 2020. That was pre-vaccine, a lot of stuff like that. So that's where we were. We're like, oh my gosh, that's like just 12 months ago. That was January and February. Pastor John's mother-in-law, Kay's mom, Mert, passed away. That happened in January and February. In February, we were excited to start interviewing for a campus pastor in Decorah. We had announced December, January that we were going to go to Decorah. And by February, we were already getting applications. We were super excited about it. Little did we know that even today, we're still looking for one. Okay? That started all the way back then. April, we did a grand reopening of our online campus, and we were kind of excited about that. And then we started to redesign some ministry strategies. We'll talk more about this, but for a hybrid attendance reality. One of the big questions we had going into 2021 was like, are people going to come back? And what's that going to be like? And what we found all the way through the year is the answer was kind of. A lot of us are hybrid attendees now. We come in person sometimes. We attend online a lot more frequently than we did before. And so we try to wrestle with that one. That was still is kind of like a slippery deal. That was April. In spring and summer, we had 12 key staff openings we were trying to fill at one time. 12 across our campuses. Crazy, okay? So that was the first part of the year. Let's continue on here. In June, Zach's, him and his wife had baby number 5, which was awesome. I think they would say it's awesome. And then around the same time, his mom was put into hospice. That was going on in the Elster family. In summer, we saw some of our lowest attended weekends since reopening. The phrase that I kind of coined was, I think people are going to summer really, really hard because they couldn't summer in 2020. And so 2021, let's just brace for them being away way more often. And we were right. That was summer. Summer and fall, we were still striking out into Decorah's campus pastor interviews. We started to kind of brace for that, get a little nervous about that. In September, Pastor John's mom, Lavina, passed away. And then we get into the fall of just this past year, and we were celebrating a bunch of new staff that we've hired, but we had more departures. And we still have a good amount of openings across some of our campuses. So that was the year that was. Now I know I included most of just more difficult or kind of depressing things there or confusing things there. And so I just want to be clear, the year that was not just a major bummer, okay? It wasn't. There were plenty of bright spots in 2021 as well. And just to be honest, there's some things I'm very excited to continue to take shape in 2022, which again, we're going to talk more about. So it's not all doom and gloom, but I'll say this, the list that I just shared with you, it's not complete. I left a bunch more kind of heavy or confusing things off of it. And it's just an interesting exercise for us. It was one that gave us some perspective as we reflected. So here's what I want to invite you to do with me, just for a second. I would love for you to go back into your mind 1 year ago, okay? So get yourself back into the end of 2020, the start of 2021. Try to do that right now, okay? As I tried to do that for the first time, it was hard. Like like harder than it normally would have been. Not as easy as it normally would be. And undoubtedly, because and maybe you've said this too, it just feels like the last couple of years are all like one big mashup. Like, I don't know, did that happen in 2019? Was it 2017? Was it 2020? You know? And undoubtedly that has something to do with how the last couple of years has gone and what's been like for all of us. I mean, I'm sure they're going to write books about how, you know, this whole deal has psychologically impacted us. But so if it's a little fuzzy for you, let me help jog your memory, okay? It's the end of 2020. 2021 is about to begin. And here was the sentiment. In fact, you know, I'm pretty sure you probably said this. I know I did. I heard it a lot. Here's what we said. Man, I cannot wait for 2020 to be over. This year needs to be done, right? Like, good riddance. What a horrible year. And back then, we didn't know what 2021 was going to hold. But at the end of 2020, here's what we were betting. There's just no way it could be as bad as the year that was. And, you know, looking back on 2021 and how it all laid out, that assumption certainly got tested because at times it felt like, well, maybe it can. But I think we were right, you know. All said and done, 2021 got a little better than 2020. But even so, there's no way that we could have anticipated everything that 2021 held for us. There's just no way that we could have. And as we reflected on that list at Prairie Lakes, you know, for us, you know, we didn't see most of that coming. We didn't see a Decorah campus pastor search that was going on forever. We didn't see all of those staff transitions. We didn't see some of those people we love passing away. We didn't see that. What we did see, though, okay, as we reflected on what it was like to navigate 2021, here's what we did see. 2021 was the year of wandering. It kind of felt like we wandered a little bit in 2021. You know, we had a sense that it was going to get better than 2020, but we didn't know what challenges still awaited for us, or how it would all take shape, or how it would all shake out. So we kind of just wandered through it, making sense of it as we went. About halfway through 2021, I felt that wandering, that sense, just for me personally, like all the way down to like my core, my soul. I mean, I felt like I was kind of wandering at times, making it up as I went. I felt like some of our staff kind of felt the same way. I watched a lot of our people, you guys, wander. And then as I kind of felt that, God brought a verse to mind, and he does this sometimes, only because, you know, the Word is alive. I mean, the Bible is His words, and they're living. Like, they're not just text on a page. They're things that He speaks and changes us through. And this is one of those verses, Matthew 9:35 and 36 is what He brought to mind. He said, Jesus went through all the towns and villages, teaching in their synagogues, proclaiming the good news of the kingdom, and healing every disease and sickness. And then when He saw the crowds, He had compassion on them. Why? Because as He saw them, here's how He saw them. They were harassed and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. And just be honest with you, that phrase got to me. Like harassed and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. And that was the weird thing about 2021, I think. As disorienting as 2020 was for all of us, we were kind of all in it together. And I know this is kind of weird to say, given that we were all isolated and quarantined, right? I didn't feel like we were together in anything, but what I'm trying to say is we're all kind of in the same boat, or maybe an ark, because it felt a little bit more apocalyptic than a joyride on a lake. But we were all kind of in it together. And then 2021 hit, and some of us, we kind of came out of the ark and we started wandering around. Some of us stayed in the ark, kind of bracing for the next storm, so to speak. But I think all of us felt on some level like the world that we knew before all of this was kind of gone. Or maybe differently put, maybe the world we were walking back into just in some way was qualitatively different than the one we knew before. And I don't think it's unlike when a flood washes away landmarks and signs and all those things that make everything familiar and easy to navigate. And I think that's why this verse in particular really grabbed me, because I felt that, right? Like I felt harassed and helpless. I felt like I was wandering around. I didn't have a script for navigating the pandemic, certainly. You didn't either. And wouldn't you know it, we didn't have a script for navigating the post-pandemic either. I mean, I was just glad toilet paper stayed on the shelves, right? But that verse in Matthew 9 was helpful not simply because it put language to some of my feelings, although that was super helpful. Not only that, I mean, really where it sank down into my heart was this, and here's the truth. Jesus loves wanderers. He loves wanderers. Like I felt loved in my wandering. I felt seen in my wandering. And this isn't to say that Jesus loves wandering. I don't think he enjoyed seeing all of us reel from this pandemic and then try to make sense of it after. I don't think Jesus loves wandering, but I know that he loves wanderers. And I want to talk more about why this was what I really needed to hear at a heart level. But before I do that, I want to share with you, show you a picture, okay? So this is the same verse, but this grabbed me so much that I wanted to kind of invest in it. And so I commissioned one of my good friends, and who happens to be our art director, Sarah Fitzgerald. I just asked her, could I commission you, pay you to make this verse for me? And Sarah's talented, obviously. One of her really cool talents is she can hand letter things like that. So this is kind of her hand lettering of this verse. And what I asked her to do and what she did was, she did it on an iPad, which is also crazy that you can do that on an iPad, right? But then she made a print for me, and what I ended up doing is framing it, and it hangs in my office as a reminder. And so here's what God reminds me of every time I look at it. Here's how he's been using this to speak to me, and maybe to you too, okay? There's a lot of different, we're just gonna keep this on the screen as you hear me talk. There's a lot of different structures that God has created for us to experience him, okay? To feel shepherded by him. A lot of different structures to know him, experience him, and follow him. For example, the church. God created the church. He created to be a gathering of his people, his sons and daughters, his family, called out of the world but sent into the world. Okay? That's a pretty big structure that he's created. But the church isn't the only structure that God's created to help us experience him, to know him, to follow him. I mean, he created marriage for those of us who are married. Sometimes your husband or your wife can be a huge source of support in knowing God. He created families, whether you've got kids or whether you are someone's kid, right? God uses moms and dads and brothers and sisters and sons and daughters and aunts and uncles. If they know Jesus, he can use those relationships, those structures. He created friendships and communities. I mean, some of us we don't have families. We're not married, or we don't have families who know Jesus, but we've got friends and community and really deep friendships, deeper than a brother or sister relationship. There's small groups and classes, and there's ways in which we've kind of built communities, mentoring relationships. There's all these structures that God's created to really help support us in our relationship with him. Now, this is where I think 2021 messed a lot of us up, and why it was so damaging for us, I think. Because for many of us, 2020 into 2021, the wandering of 2021, altered our relationship with a lot of those structures. Sometimes it was for the good. Okay, sometimes we would say, yeah, my relationship is stronger than it ever has been. It got tested, but in a lot of cases, that wasn't, it really weakened it. I mean, some of us felt completely out of rhythm of going to church, and we're still trying to struggle to get back into it. I mean, our family rhythms got super tight in 2020. Whether you liked it or not, it was kind of a year of the worst game of sardines you've ever played. But, you know, we weren't all over Kingdom Come. We weren't going 3 different places on 3 different nights at the same time, you know. But then wham, like 2021 hits, and then dust off that calendar, right? Because it's going to go 80 miles an hour again. If 2020 revealed some cracks in some of those structures and relationships, 2021 was often the fallout of that. And so, I think a lot of us found ourselves walking back out into the world, hoping to rediscover, maybe get back to normal, whatever that was, only to find ourselves wandering in the aftermath. Now, it's in that place of wandering, that Jesus says, I see you, and I love you. And he says, I haven't changed. I haven't changed. You might feel like the church is weird or different. You might feel like your friendships or your community is weird or different. You might feel like your family isn't safe anymore. You might feel like your church isn't safe anymore. But Jesus says, I'm still safe. I'm not different. I haven't changed. I created those structures, but he's not bound by them. And from the compassion, right? From the compassion that Jesus feels in his heart for wanderers, like sheep without a shepherd, here's what Jesus says. He says this in Matthew 11. He says, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you'll find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. So if you had to capture 2021 in a feeling or an emotion, like if you had to name a feeling or emotion that captured how most, like maybe you felt most of the time in 2021, what would it be? Okay? Just 2 seconds. Think about, how did I feel a lot in 2021? You know what it would be for me? Tired. Fatigued, you know. I was just tired. And I think a lot of us were. I mean, it didn't matter who I talked to. I talked to pastors across the country. I talked to pastors locally. I talked to our staff. I talked to a lot of my friends. I talked to a lot of you. How you doing? Exhausted. I'm just tired. To all of us who are weary and burdened from our wandering, listen to what Jesus is saying. I love you. I'm here. I haven't changed. Come to me, and I can help you find rest. Okay? That's part 1, just reflecting back, all right? Let's move on to part 2, okay? Part 2 is anticipating ahead. Anticipating ahead. Back in August of 2021, 6 months ago now, we started planning sermons for this year. And so when we thought about this weekend, the first weekend in 2022, here's what we wanted to really cover and kind of kick off. In 2022, here's what we want. Bar's not real high, okay? We just want to wander less. We want to wander less. We did a lot of wandering in 2021. Who's coming back? Who's not coming back? Who's leaving? Who's got to be hired? What's the economy going to do? When's COVID? Is it going to flare up again? It was a year of more certainty than 2020, but we still did a good bit of wandering in 2021, obviously. So here we sit, started 2022, full year ahead of us, still not knowing exactly what it's going to hold, all right? But here's what I think we do know. We just want to wander less in 2022. So what I want to do is let's put one of the verses we've already talked about back up on the screen. Okay, we saw Jesus say this in Matthew 9:35. He went through all the towns and villages, saw compassion on them because they were harassed and helpless like sheep without a shepherd, right? That's what he said. Take a look at what he says immediately following in verse 37. Then he said to his disciples, the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Ask the Lord of the harvest, therefore, to send out workers into his harvest field. It's kind of mixing metaphors here, you know? Like he was talking about sheep and shepherd and wandering and harassed and helpless. But then he starts talking about harvests, you know? So let's kind of track what he's seeing here and then what he's saying, because he sees a bunch of people wandering like sheep without a shepherd. He's looking at the crowds and this is the sense that he gets. But in that wandering, Jesus sees an opportunity. And that's what makes him, I think, one of the things that makes him very unique. In the wandering, Jesus sees a potential harvest, so to speak. See, in one breath, Jesus switches from this sheep metaphor to this grain metaphor, this agricultural metaphor, from shepherding to harvest, from gathering, wandering sheep back into the fold to like gathering grain into the bin. And I want to be careful not to dive too deep into these metaphors here. That's when you kind of get yourself in trouble. But I think it's safe to say this. You are not meant to wander forever. There's going to be seasons of wandering, just like there's a season for planting and a season for growth. But those crops are not meant to be in the ground forever, right? A season, just like any season, is meant to come, it's going somewhere. It's supposed to come to an end. And with Jesus, those seasons are not meant to come to an end. Those seasons of wandering are not meant to come to an end with, you leaving or being lost forever or, being judged for how long you were wandering or where you wandered to. None of that. It's not how it works with him. Those seasons of wandering are meant to come to an end in a way that feels more like a harvest. More like coming back home and being exactly where you're supposed to be, okay? So the question really, I think, is how? How is Jesus, what is Jesus' solution for harvesting wanderers? If that, doesn't sound too creepy, which it kind of does. But, okay, so here's the solution. It's us. It's you and me. If you want to wander less in 2022, okay, the best way to do it, Jesus' way to do it, is to join him in reaching other wanderers. Jesus' antidote for wandering is a community on mission with him. That's what he says. I've never served in any of our armed forces, any of our armed services, okay? But, all of us know more than a few people who have and who do. And now, not all of them have the same story or same reason for jumping in. But I know a few of folks like that who jumped in because they joined the Army or Navy or Marines or Air Force because they kind of felt like they were wandering. And wouldn't you know it, what they found was a community. What they found was a mission. And that season of wandering for them came to an end. But not only that, well, they came out of that season, a lot of them, just almost a better version of themselves when it was complete. And it's the same way with Jesus, right? It is. If 2021 was a year of wandering, kind of in church, kind of not, kind of fragile in some of your relationships, maybe not really feeling great or clear about who you're becoming, maybe feeling more a little bit pessimistic than optimistic about where things are going. If that's you, then Jesus has an invitation for you. Hey, join his team. Join his team. So I want to get, as we close, okay, I want to get super practical here, super clear about how we do that here, how you can do that here, all right? We've got a vision at Prairie Lakes. We have a vision to reach Iowa, and we say, well, let's reach Iowa big and little. Big Iowa and little Iowa. Here's what we mean by that. Big Iowa, pretty straightforward. It's our entire state, Missouri to Mississippi, Minnesota to Missouri. Big Iowa, okay? We want to dot our state with no matter campuses, no matter churches. And by God's grace and your generosity, we just did it again into core, physical campus number 7. With our online campuses, that's 8. And we've got a graphic that kind of circulates amongst our staff of how much of our state we're reaching. It's encouraging, let's say that, okay? But our vision isn't just big Iowa. We want to reach Iowa big and little, right? So here's what we mean by little Iowa. Here's what we mean. It's your sphere of influence, the place where God's planted you. You know, it's your friends, your family, your neighbors, your coworkers. It's people in Cedar Falls, or people in Osage, or people in New Hampton, or people in Fort Dodge, or Independence, or Decorah, or Grinnell. I got all of them, I think. It's right where God's planted you. That's your little Iowa. So here's what we did. Back in April of 2020, 8 months ago, a team of about 20 of us Prairie Lake staffers, we gathered and we just did some planning. Because here's what we knew back then. We knew that post-pandemic, post-2020 and into 2021, if we were going to be a healthy church coming out of that, if we were going to be the kind of church that fulfills our vision to reach Iowa big and little, then here's what we needed to do. We needed to reinvest in the little Iowa portion of our vision. We're still launching campuses. We're still on that path. We're still trying to reach big Iowa. But given all the wandering that we did in 2021, we just felt like we got to help our people re-engage in reaching little Iowa together. Community with a mission. And that was the place we needed to focus. So what I want to do, just give you a quick snapshot, a quick preview of what's coming up this year and what we have planned. All right? This is how we are planning on reaching Iowa together in 2022, okay? 2 parts. For number 1, we've done a lot of work in this past year and are going to launch some reimagined small groups. And the difference there from the past is there's going to be more kinds of small groups, and they're going to be offered more frequently. So we're going to start launching some interest-based small groups. If you are trying to reach your little Iowa, one of the best ways to do that is to just invite someone into a relationship or a group with stuff you enjoy doing. Golf small group, hunting small group, watching Netflix small group. I don't know, right? But we want to equip more people to leverage kind of who you are, what you enjoy, your hobbies. How do we do that together with the people that we love and what people we're trying to reach? Interest-based. Topical small groups. There's things that regardless of where you're at in your faith journey, whether you go to church or not, like most people want to become a better parent if you got kids. You want a better marriage if you're married. How could we have some more interest-based groups that even if it's just a bunch of Prairie Lakers, we benefit from, but man, it'd be kind of a cool thing to maybe invite a friend into. Spiritual disciplines and study. How do we start growing up in our faith? Not just growing deeper for the sake of growing deeper, but for the sake of being equipped to be on mission together. Those kinds of things. So we'll roll some of those out, and then really even more often. Okay, a lot of times we just do a spring and a fall push, and we're still going to do those, but more kind of jumping off points. January 30th is going to be our first big one of the year, tied to a sermon series again, but then April 3rd, June 5th, September 18th, and November 6th. Just more on-ramps. In fact, even some on-ramp type events where you can get into a big room together, meet some people, meet your leader, and take a step in, okay? So that's number 1. Here's number 2. We want to reach Iowa together in 2022. We're reinvesting in volunteers, okay? Getting on a team is one of the best ways to form community and get on mission. So we're going to develop people in teams. Two big kind of aspects to that. We're going to build a regular rhythm of relationships in team, not just tasks. Sometimes, and we don't intend to, but sometimes we have a tendency to treat people as though they're just a name in a box. And you show up and you put a name tag on, and that's kind of it. And I don't think that's what we do by default, but that's at our worst. Man, we're going to be a lot more intentional about building relationships in team as we go, getting to know each other. And not only that, intentionally helping people on teams discover higher levels of leadership, okay? So listen, 2022, we want to wander less. Wander less, okay? We want to be in community, on mission, reaching other wanderers.
Thanks for that message. And maybe God's doing something in your life right now. Maybe something's stirring up inside of you. We would love to help you process that, help pray with you through that. And we have people ready right now to do just that. So if you're in church online, you can hit the live prayer button. If you're on our social media, you can send us a message, and we'd love to be there for you here in this moment. And kids, don't run off. Just 1 minute children's programming is going to begin, so get ready for that. But everyone else, a happy new year. Hope to see you back next week.
What are you doing?
I'm trying to hang up this banner, but I don't have enough hands.
Can I help?
Yeah, you can help here. Okay, are you ready? 1, 2, 3.
Happy New Year!
Kids, go watch this week's video.
What can you control? A paintbrush, a video game, a basketball, a drone. Oh, a mixer. Yikes. All of these things can be a little tricky to control, but with practice, you can get really good. But you know what's the toughest thing to control? You. Some days, it feels like your thoughts, your words, and your actions are all running away with you. But with God's help, you can learn to control you. It starts with inviting God into your thoughts, planting His words in your heart, stopping to think before you speak, choosing to reflect before you act. Through the power of God's Spirit, you can speak and act in a way that shows love to others and to God. You can choose every day to live His way. That's why showing self-control is an amazing way to worship God with your life. Because worship is about more than just singing loud. It's all about living loud.
Whenever I'm in need and I'm looking for help, God, you're always there for me. Wherever you lead me, I can follow you. God, you're always there for me. Oh, God, you're always there for me. Help me believe you know what's best for me. I feel it in my soul when you are in control. I got one life to live and I wanna live it your way. Oh yeah, I do what I should do when you help me choose. I got one life to live and I wanna live it your way. Oh yeah, I got one life to live and I wanna live it your way. Oh yeah, one life to live and I wanna live it your way. Whenever I'm lost and I don't know where to turn, God, you're always there for me. Wherever I go, you're always by my side. God, you're always there for me. Oh, God, you're always there for me. Yes, you are. So help me believe you know what's best for me. I feel it in my soul when you are in control. I got one life to live and I wanna live it your way. Oh yeah, I do what I should do when you help me choose. I got one life to live and I wanna live it your way. Oh yeah, I got one life to live and I wanna live it your way. Oh yeah.
Yeah. God, help us to be more like you. 'Cause your way is the best way.
I feel it in my soul when you are in control. I got one life to live and I wanna live it your way. Oh yeah, I do what I should do when you help me choose. I got one life to live and I wanna live it your way. Oh yeah, I feel it in my soul when you are in control. I got one life to live and I wanna live it your way. Oh yeah, I do what I should do when you help me choose. I got one life to live and I wanna live it your way. Oh yeah, I got one life to live and I wanna live it your way. Oh yeah.
Oh, we're live. Hey everybody, I'm Jacob, and I'm very excited about what's in this box. I found it online, and I had to get it. It's kind of a throwback to another era. And as much as I just want to rip into this box without thinking and just throw it everywhere, it's probably best if I exercise a little bit of self-control. Self-control is choosing to do what you should, even when you don't want to. So, I'm choosing to do a nice and slow, controlled unboxing. Step 1, very carefully cut the tape from the box. Step 2, open the box. Slowly open the box and, what do we have here? Instruction manual. Very important. Not. 1, remote control and the treasure of treasures. A VCR, video cassette recorder. Let me just, here. Now I can watch movies like our ancestors did. All I need is a video cassette. American Tail 2, Fievel Goes West. Sounds pretty amazing. Boop. All right, so now I just pop that. Nom, 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 nom. Oh, you know what? Where's the, oh. I think I broke it. I don't understand. I thought I was prepared. I don't know where I went wrong. Oh, I have got a remote control. I can just rewind. Oh, in today's story, we're going to rewind back to when Jesus spent 40 days in the desert. Don't worry, he was more prepared than I was. See you soon.
The Bible. It's 66 books of history, stories, letters, and poetry that fit together to form God's one big story. The epic adventure of how He created us and loves us so much that He made a way to rescue us. As we travel through the Bible, from Genesis to Revelation, we discover people who met God and found their lives changed forever. And now for an amazing story, inspired by the book of Luke, chapter 4, verses 1 through 13.
After his remarkable birth, Jesus spent most of his years growing up in Nazareth. To others, he probably seemed like any other Jewish boy. He ran and played with the other kids.
Catch!
He worked in the carpentry shop with his father Joseph. As he grew older, he studied God's Word, the part of Scripture we now know as the Old Testament.
Worship the Lord your God. He is the only one you should serve.
It was not until Jesus came to the Jordan River to be baptized by John that others began to realize how extraordinary he was.
This is my son, and I love him. I am very pleased with him.
30 years of life had led Jesus to this point, where God himself announced that Jesus was the chosen one. It must have seemed like the perfect time for Jesus to begin doing miracles and gathering new followers. But that's not what happened. Instead, God's Spirit led Jesus into the desert for 40 long days.
God, I trust you. I trust your plan.
During this time, Jesus ate nothing at all. He focused on God as the one thing he needed above all else. But he wasn't alone, not quite, because the devil showed up.
You must be hungry. So hungry.
It was true. Jesus was desperately in need of food.
You are human, after all.
The devil refused to leave Jesus alone. He needled and tempted him at every opportunity. At the end of 40 days, he offered Jesus a smooth, heavy rock.
If you are the Son of God, tell this stone to become bread.
Jesus stared at the round stone. He knew as God's son, he could easily turn it into a warm, crisp loaf of bread and just tear off just a large, chewy piece to instantly satisfy his hunger. But he knew every word God had spoken.
It is written, man must not live only on bread.
Suit yourself.
The devil wasn't finished. He led Jesus to a high place where the whole world appeared to spread out beneath them. Every powerful kingdom, every palace, every throne of all the rulers on earth. The devil smiled. He seemed reasonable, in control.
I will give you all their authority and glory. It has been given to me, and I can give it to anyone I want to. If you worship me, it will all be yours.
Jesus didn't flinch. He knew he would rule all those kingdoms. And to take the easy way, he knew it would lead to disaster. And again, he spoke God's words.
It is written, worship the Lord your God. He is the only one you should serve.
The devil narrowed his eyes and readied his last shot. He led Jesus to the city of Jerusalem. They stood upon the very highest point of the temple itself. The worshippers far below looked as small as beetles. The devil smirked.
If you are the Son of God, throw yourself down from here. It is written, the Lord will command his angels to take good care of you. They will lift you up in their hands. Then you won't trip over a stone.
The devil's true question seemed to hang in the air.
Does God really love you? Prove it.
But once again, Jesus had God's own words at the ready.
Scripture says, do not test the Lord your God.
The devil seethed with rage. He couldn't trap Jesus, so he finally gave up and left until his next good chance. When the devil was gone, God sent angels to take care of Jesus and provide everything he needed. And because Jesus spent his entire life discovering what God said, when the time came, he was ready to make a wise choice.
Let's find out where I went wrong, shall we? Full screen. Rewind. There. And play. Very important. Not. That was my mistake. Tossing out the instructions. If I want to use a VCR, first I have to learn how to use a VCR. Makes sense, doesn't it? No? How about this? When Jesus was in the desert, he was tempted by the devil to do things he shouldn't do. But Jesus was prepared. He used things he'd learned from what we now call the Old Testament to help stand against temptation. Most of us probably won't spend 40 days without food in the desert, but we will definitely be tempted to do things that we shouldn't do. You might be tempted to yell at your little sister. You might be tempted to watch YouTube when you're supposed to be doing your homework. You could be tempted to eat that whole pizza instead of saving some for your friends. So what do? How do we control ourselves when we're tempted to do what we shouldn't? If you want to do the right thing, first you have to learn the right thing. You need to be ready, prepared, and that means you need instructions. We can get instructions for life in all kinds of places. The Bible is an incredible place to look if you want to know how God wants you to live. And God has also placed people in your life that can help teach you the difference between right and wrong. It could be your parents, your teachers, your small group leaders. If we listen and learn, we'll be more prepared when temptation happens. So here's the one thing to remember today. Be ready to do the right thing. Learn now so you don't do something you regret later. I wish this thing could rewind real life. No, it's just a remote. I'll see you next time.